welcome back to TradeBlocked, everyone. I am your host, Dustin Lundt. I am back. I'm glad that Hoov and Joel, you guys held down the fort without me last week here, but I'm back. I'm ready to get into tonight's show. Should be a lot of fun. Or
It's always
is
a
it?
lot of fun.
That is the question.
We had a lot of fun last week, and now that I don't have to host, I can relax a little bit. I can enjoy a little bit more and not have to be as on point. You know, we're gonna make some mistakes tonight, baby. But it feels right to make a lot of mistakes on a Trevor Lawrence episode, so it feels on point. So
yeah, isn't that a whole different vibe when you're the main host of the show rather than just sitting back and being color commentary?
I hope that I wasn't like giving off, but I was like stressing because it's been a while. It's been a while since I like hosted my own show. Like obviously we got Joel, Joel's here and whatnot, but doing like the banners and like doing the intro and everything. People don't know there's a lot more that goes into this than you think. It's not just showing up and turning on the camera and streaming. So yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Right.
But
yeah, so boys, how are you doing? Since I haven't really had a chance to talk to you since a couple weeks here.
Look, I gotta get this off my chest before we start. Okay, I went 6 for 9 on a parlay this weekend, and I know I shouldn't be like boasting about not completing it, but man, that's the closest I've gotten. That was a $31,000 bet, and I was itching. We had a Taysom Hill touchdown on there. We had Mike Evans touchdown on there. We had a Roshan Johnson touchdown on there, but we also had an Aaron Jones touchdown on there. We had a Dalton Schultz touchdown on there, and we had a Tony Pollard touchdown on there too. So we had a lot of good ones on there. So, but I feel like we're about to hit. I really do. Pause. I feel like we're about to hit, and it's going to be great. It's going to be one of these weeks. So make sure you guys are still checking out the bets over at Optimus and coming out Saturday. Joel, what about you? How you doing?
That's right.
Not happy right now. Beloved Brewers just shit the bed again. They're like 1-10 in their last 11 playoff games, and not happy at all after the Packers just no-showed the entire first half on Sunday in my household civil war game. So, yeah, I'm not super pleased right now, but we'll get through it. We'll manage.
I just show up when things are good, when times are good with the Brewers, because it's like being a Badgers fan. It kind of sucks. It's like you have all the optimism in the world, but you also know like you're not going to go very far. Like even if you make the playoffs, you're not going to do anything, and the Badgers are worse than the Brewers.
You're describing Vikings fans right now.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. The Vikings look like the best team in football right now, so it's hard to give the Vikings any discredit right now.
I know they just crushed us this last weekend, us Packers, but I still just can't hold back giving them the due that they deserve, which is their
Jair Alexander was a huge thing too. So gotta give yourself a little bit.
Missing their top 2 cornerbacks was a big problem.
Yes.
But you know what? We could sit and analyze that game all night, which as much as I would absolutely love to do, let's talk about something better. Question mark. Hoov, as you said at the top here, we're talking Trevor Lawrence tonight. The $275 million man just got paid this offseason to be the franchise quarterback of the Jags. But the question is, can he be your franchise quarterback on your fantasy squad? I think that's what everyone's really curious about here. So, Hoov, I'm going to start with you. What do you feel like his current value is, or where do you rank him basically in the tiers of quarterbacks?
I mean, a friend of the show, Dustin Lutke, Dustin Lundt. No, I was right. Dustin Lundt.
Nope, Dustin Lutke.
Yeah, I was right the first. I mix you guys' last names up all the time. But Dustin Lutke, friend of the show. Like we were talking about it last year. We went up to the Packer game, and he was telling me like, "Hey, what do you think about Trevor Lawrence? Do you think he's good or not?" And he was already pitching to me back then about like, "Hey, keep an eye on Trevor Lawrence on whether you or keep your expectations tempered." Is the conversation that we basically had all the way up to Green Bay. And so I kept it in the back of my mind, and I kind of saw what he was preaching like throughout after that conversation. And I still consider him like a young, aspiring quarterback. Obviously, it's hard to say, oh, it's the offensive coordinator because he's gone through so many. But you've seen with someone like Baker that they have the talent, that they can turn it around once they get the right one that actually just knows how to work them, and that you get a blueprint on how to actually utilize that player. So I'm not gonna be fully out on Trevor Lawrence. I think that he has skill. It's just it's so inconsistent. Like when they were really bad and then they went on that tear and then they made the playoffs, that's like the best thing that they have to stand on for Trevor Lawrence's reign in Jacksonville so far. So I understand why they paid him, because if he hit the free agency market, a team like the Raiders that are desperate for a quarterback, like obviously they're going to pay him that money. So I understand why the Jags needed to pay him, because he's better to be in the building than out of the building. It's not necessarily like a Daniel Jones situation where it's like, well, we had to pay him, otherwise if he left, we don't know what we'd have. Like he's still better than that situation. So I'm tampered, but I think that when we look at some of the players that are underneath him, I might be lowering the ADP on Trevor Lawrence a little bit.
Yeah. What about you, Joel? Because we know coming out of college, he was the wonder boy. He was the next coming, the next Andrew Luck, or next, insert great quarterback here, and hasn't lived up to those expectations. Were all the fantasy analysts out there just wrong about him? And because I'm asking you, because I obviously know you're the expert here. Were we just all wrong, or was it like who said he's just had these, just kind of a bad beat here to kind of start his career? And how do you feel about him fantasy wise?
Dynasty wise, he has no value right now. So, I mean, if you have him, you're kind of stuck with him. You just have to hope it gets better. Is he a sell or a buy low candidate? I don't know, because I don't think that anyone who has him is going to, like, he was the clear number one overall pick in 21 dynasty drafts, rookie drafts. So I think that institutional memory is still pretty strong, and people who have him just probably don't have other options. So they're probably not all that ready to give him up. I'm looking at the awesome NFL Pro right now. If you look at EPA per dropback, here are the quarterbacks who are worse than Trevor Lawrence right now. Caleb Williams, rookie, Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Bo Nix, Will Levis, Bryce Young. I mean, that's a who's who of shitty quarterbacks. So if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, he's been stuck with two terrible coaches. Like Urban Meyer was the worst NFL head coach of all time. Doug Peterson sucks. Like he got carried by a completely freak Nick Foles playoff run to a Super Bowl. Otherwise, he's a terrible coach. He was out of Philly the next year, so he's a terrible coach. So he has been stuck with terrible offensive systems, terrible coaching. Yeah, I think the hope is that that the Cons kind of come to their senses and bring in and pay up, spend the money to bring in an actual coach like a Ben Johnson, somebody like that, and then he can. I don't want Belichick to go there because Belichick's just going to fuck with him. So, just get a Ben Johnson, get one of those elite coordinator types, get a Shanahan guy, whatever. Just bring someone in who can develop this guy, get a quarterback whisperer, and just kind of break him down and start over from scratch. But otherwise, it's rough.
I don't know how Ben Johnson is going to take that job. That's what worries me. Like, obviously, Doug Peterson's not the answer
because they can give him all the money in the world.
That doesn't make him necessarily like he could have done that this year. He could have found a team that could have made a blank check at him.
If they flash 15 mil at him, you think he's going to say no to be able to work with Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram and all the talent that they have, and probably a high draft pick next year?
You act like Jacksonville's a great market. Like, I don't see many people signing up to go to Jacksonville. As no disrespect to Jaguars fans out there, but like it was so hard for them to get a wide receiver to go there. That's why they had to overpay Christian Kirk, and that's what brought him there in the first place. Teams don't want to go there unless it's built up to the system. So like even someone like Baker Mayfield, like when did he finally get someone with Dave Canales? It was Tampa Bay's like they built that up. They built up Dave Canellis before you ended up going to be a head coach somewhere else. I don't think it's necessarily like plug and place with Ben Johnson to fix Trevor Lawrence. It might be that they find someone that is in this, that's already like within the organization, that knows Trevor better than anybody and is willing to come in and take him to the next level. I don't know. But I think that once we start looking at some of these other quarterbacks, like we'll get a better value. Like everyone kind of knows what they're going to get out of Trevor Lawrence right now, until things are turned around. So obviously, like comparing what he's going to do on the field, like record wise versus fantasy, it's a big difference. But he could have a few good games. I mean, he does have Brian Thomas Jr., he does have Christian Kirk, but I just don't see how a coach comes in here and turns things around like right away, that we're like either completely out on him or completely in on him. Does that make sense?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
I'm sure there's still going to be some ambivalence next year, or some uncertainty. Sure.
Okay. So actually, there is some unity amongst Dynasty Nerds, our partner, and Sleeper, with Trevor Lawrence being currently ranked at QB 15, right in the middle. QB 15. So there's not much to talk about when comparing the two, but when you look at who's higher on Dynasty Nerds and who's higher on Sleeper and vice versa, you're going to see a few names that are going to stick out tonight. So should we get into that?
Yeah, let's absolutely get into it.
All right. So currently at QB 15, we got Trevor Lawrence. 5 quarterbacks above Trevor Lawrence currently on Dynasty Nerds. We got Anthony Richardson at QB 10, Kyler Murray at QB 11, Justin Herbert at QB 12, Brock Purdy at QB 13, and Dak Prescott at QB 14. So it's might be a hard task to pick Trevor Lawrence over any of these guys, but would you make a case for Trevor Lawrence over any of these guys?
I wouldn't even try. No.
Yeah, there's no one on that list that comes close.
Mm-hmm. I think that it was on the show that we talked about, even like someone like Dak Prescott is as an aging talent. I mean, he's only 30, so
he's 30.
He's not necessarily, yeah, everyone views him as an aging talent, but he's only 30, so he still should be viewed.
He's
as
1 year older than Patrick
talent.
Mahomes.
That, and I view him like he's the same age as Jared Goff. So if you're going to view Jared Goff as an aging talent, you also have to view like Dak Prescott.
Well, that just blew my mind. Oh my God, that just blew my mind that Goff and Dak are the same age.
Yeah.
I feel like Goff has been in the league for like 20 years at this point.
Yeah. So like it's vice versa. Like you like, and I don't think anyone's really like viewing Goff as like an old talent. So I don't know why there's this mark on Dak that he's like 4 years away from being done. Like he could play another 10 years. So I'm not out on Dak. I actually traded Lamar Jackson for Dak and like a bunch of like second round picks this offseason, because I was like, if you want to give up on Dak, that's on you, because I'm going to jump the gun and I'm going to get Dak, who's also a top 10 quarterback in fantasy like Lamar is, and get a bunch of second round picks on top of it to help my bench. So I still feel good about that. Feel good about that one. So there's no really argument out of these guys. I don't think that we're going to get anything out of you guys from that one. So let's look at the 5 quarterbacks currently below Trevor Lawrence on Dynasty Nerds. We got Jared Goff at QB 16, Tua Tagovailoa at QB 17, JJ McCarthy at QB 18, Drake May at QB 19, and Baker Mayfield at QB 20. So are you taking any of these guys over Trevor Lawrence currently? Now this is where the good conversation starts. Dustin?
I would probably take Goff over him right now. With the way Baker's playing in the last couple of years, I might even take Baker over him. But other than that, Tua with his injury history, we don't even know if he's going to come back and play this year. I just wouldn't want to take that risk onto my squad. And the other 2 quarterbacks are rookies, unproven. So at least I know what I get with TLaw at this point. But yeah, I think I would take Goff and like I said, maybe Baker over him at this point.
Joel?
The only one I would not take over him is Tua, and that's just because of the injury concerns. I think it's legitimately questionable whether he finishes the year. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a lost season for him. So I would easily take Goff. I'd rather have McCarthy is on hold. I'd much rather have Drake May. And
Really?
yeah, I would. There's no way you're starting TLaw ahead of Baker Mayfield right now. So yeah, and what's the argument for TLaw to be better than Baker going forward?
I just the Drake May one, that's the only question mark right there. But Baker confidently, I feel like that's one that he should probably be around QB 17 at this point. No, probably QB 16 at this point, and I'd move Jared Goff up to QB 15 as well. So I think that would probably drop him to QB 19 overall and drop Drake May down to QB 20 in my opinion. But I'm a JJ McCarthy guy, so I was going to take JJ McCarthy over him anyways. But like, I think Drake May is basically going to be Baker Mayfield that was my comp coming into the draft. Is like for the next few years, I think that there's going to be a lot of struggles, and Drake May, I don't know if I'm gonna look at a talent like Trevor Lawrence who has experience versus Drake May struggling in the first few years of his career. I think I'm going to still take Trevor over what was Baker the first few seasons in Cleveland, and that's like the comp for May in New England. So I think I'd still take Trevor over May as well. But the rest of the guys as well, I would take over him.
Okay.
All right.
So we're close to being in agreement here on this one. We all agree that Trevor's slightly too high.
A little bit too high, but we'll also see like where things move throughout the season. Like, I don't know how often Sleeper actually updates these things, but you have to imagine with how things have shaken up the first few weeks of the season that he's going to drop sometime soon.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
There's not many people actually drafting right now, so I don't think that there's probably a big need for Sleeper to update these things. So I'm sure that there will be a time when they update it, but for right now, it seems like we're still going off of preseason rankings. So let's look at the 5 quarterbacks that are above Lawrence on Sleeper instead of Dynasty Nerds. And let's see if maybe some of these names stand out to you. So we got Justin Herbert, QB 10, Jaden Daniels, QB 11, Kyler Murray, QB 12, Brock Purdy, and Dak Prescott, QB 13, QB 14. Yeah, it's still a tough ask to do. I think Jaden Daniels right now, he's probably there's just no question. He looks like a dynasty.
Jaden Daniels is QB 3 right now.
Dynasty?
Yeah.
Okay. I say top 5. I'd say top 5 confidently.
He's easy
right now.
top 5. He's probably top 3.
Yeah. And
go try and trade for him.
Maybe we should just turn this into a Jaden Daniels episode at this point. There's probably more to talk about with Jaden Daniels than there is about Trevor Lawrence.
Be a lot more interesting, that's for sure.
Yes, the views probably would be a lot higher than right now if we're talking about Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels is money. I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence's credit. So let's look at the 5 quarterbacks currently below. Maybe a few of these names, they seem a little different. Maybe 1 or 2. Tua Tagovailoa at QB 16, Jared Goff at QB 17, JJ McCarthy at QB 18, Drake May at QB 19, and Bo Nix at QB 20. So, any of these names stand out that you would take over Trevor Lawrence?
I would take Lawrence ahead of Bo Nix because I think Bo Nix sucks. But yeah, other than that. Yeah, Tua. I'm still taking him ahead of Tua, but he's behind Goff. He's behind McCarthy. He's behind May for me.
I would stick to where I was before with Goff being ahead of him. I just don't know that I could put the others ahead of him right now.
Yeah, if Tua didn't have as great of talent, I think I would still take. I'd take Trevor over him still, but. I'm still going to take a chance on Tua. I mean, he'll be back in a few weeks, and he could even produce. You know, he could be extremely productive. He's got all the weapons to do all the work for him, and he just has to put the ball there. So I think I'd still take Tua over Trevor, and I'd still take him over Drake May, as I said. And Bo Nix, I thought the best comp for Bo Nix would have been like if maybe best case scenario if he came in and had like a Jalen Hurts effect, and he was just able to move the ball with both his legs and throw a little bit. I thought maybe there was a chance of that, but we're not seeing what you'd want, in my opinion. I'm not going to knock on him, but I'm just not blown away by Bo Nix to start the season at this point. Okay. So we got through that very quickly, and there was no argument within the comment section, which means we must be doing an absolutely great job. So
perfect analysis.
Let's take a little bit of a breather and let's go through some trades a little early tonight. Maybe we'll wrap things up a little bit early tonight. I don't know. It depends on how riled up I get the crew from these trades that I put together. And then let's just get into it, okay? So there's a few of them that are super flex, a few of them that are 1 QB. Not quite sure what our audience out there, what kind of leagues they all have. We got viewers of all kinds coming through YouTube and Twitch and whatnot. So we got a variety of trades throughout for you guys tonight. So starting out, we got super flex, Trevor Lawrence, or a 2025 mid-first.
Pick.
I think I would Superflex. I'd probably take Lawrence. I have faith that he's going to improve.
We have to I get just wanting to get the pick and do it and be easy about it, but it's super flex. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he's got job security. I don't think that he's going to be losing his job anytime soon. He's going to not blow people away and be this elite fantasy quarterback, but he's still a serviceable quarterback, in my opinion, a serviceable starting quarterback for Jacksonville. And once they get the right coach in there to fix all these bugs, then he could be in that top 15 range again. But right now it's a hard ask. But for a 2025 mid-first, we're seeing quarterbacks drop like flies. Having that extra quarterback might be something that, is worth investing in. So I think I still would invest in Trevor Lawrence for the 2025 mid-first. I'm not blown away by the 2025 draft class anyways. So I think I'd still take Trevor.
Here's the thing. If Trevor Lawrence is starting for you, you're not winning. He's got 4 touchdowns and 700 yards passing. You're not winning with him if he's your starter. You're not. That's a fact. So if you're not winning, you'd rather have the pick. If he's your backup, if he's your third quarterback, and you can get a first for your third quarterback, and it's not, you haven't hoarded and you've got an elite third quarterback, you'd much rather have the pick. You'd much rather have the flexibility. You'd much rather. Trevor Lawrence is a dead asset unless and until he turns things around and starts cooking. And that there's no guarantee that happens. You can't move him right now. So if you're a contender, you would rather, and he's not starting for you, you'd rather have the first so that you can do something with the first if you need to make a trade later in the season, or if you need to bolster your roster next year. You'd much rather have the first. There's no scenario in which you would rather have Trevor Lawrence than the pick.
I mean, how many quarterbacks are winning your leagues right now? So he does quarterbacks.
He's actively hurting you. He's got 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He's killing you right now.
I don't, in a super flex, I'm not saying he's going to win you your league, but as your QB2, he's got upside in a 2025 first, for a 2025 mid first. I wouldn't probably send it for a 104, but for a 107, sure, I'd take Trevor Lawrence for a 107, a late mid.
It's not the pick itself. It's the flexibility of having the pick. Trevor Lawrence is dead. He is a dead asset. You're not moving him. He has 0 flexibility. So you'd rather have the pick. If you're a contender, you'd rather have the pick. If you're not a contender, you'd rather have the pick. There's no way you would take Trevor Lawrence over the pick. No way.
Well, I guess I'm going to go out and get a lot of Trevor Lawrence this offseason. But I did actually trade for Trevor Lawrence this offseason. And I'm still going to stand on it because I traded for Trevor Lawrence by getting rid of Bryce Young. So that's a win. That's a win-win,
That's a win.
Yeah. But I think I'm still going to go out there and I'm still going to get a lot of Trevor Lawrence. Maybe not the mid first. Dustin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe not the mid first, but I mean, I still believe in Trevor Lawrence, and I think he can improve from what we've seen. Um, it's maybe he's going to take the Baker path. And it might take him a few years, um, but I I have faith. I do. And I know we've seen quarterbacks flare out before that have had all this talent in the world, and they're the greatest college quarterbacks ever. But I think he's shown enough where there's something there for me where I think he's going to improve. So I would take that chance on him. Yeah, I wouldn't give up a
Let me ask
high.
you this:
All right.
Would you trade Deshaun Watson for a mid 25 first?
There's levels to
Their
this.
numbers
Okay.
are identical.
There's
numbers are identical.
no.
Okay.
Stop.
Their
No,
numbers are
To
identical.
answer
No.
Through
We're
4
not going to
games,
do
their
that.
numbers are identical. This is a
No.
fact.
I don't care about your numbers right now. We're talking.
Deshaun
ball
Watson
here.
has 727
We're talking-
passing yards.
no,
Trevor
okay.
Lawrence has 729. They both have 4 touchdowns. Their numbers are identical.
I don't
This
care
is a
about the numbers.
fact.
I don't care about your numbers. I'm telling you.
I
that-
do because you win.
I'm
with
telling
numbers.
you that
You
if
win with
both
production.
quarterbacks are struggling right now, there is zero chance. There is zero chance that Deshaun Watson gets another opportunity. Zero chance.
I don't
Deshaun-
disagree with that.
Trevor Lawrence has job security for the next 3 years, in my opinion.
Okay, so that makes him
Deshaun
insidious
Watson
because
to
he's
have
killing you
have
because
job
you think
security the
you're
next
safe, but
3
you're not.
weeks. The next 3 weeks, Joel. Come on.
Okay, but then if Deshaun Watson loses his job, then you need to fix him. That's why Trevor Lawrence is insidious because he sits on your roster and you think, I'm okay, I got Trevor Lawrence. You're not. You're losing. So
Are you
they
blaming
different?
Kevin Stefanski? Are you pointing the finger at Kevin Stefanski? Or are you pointing the finger at Deshaun Watson?
Both.
Because
Here,
I
I
don't
just
know.
want.
I am not.
Okay. So, would you like to make a gentleman's wager on the rest of the season between Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson?
No, I'm just saying to this point, their numbers are identical.
Good for you. Good for you for not betting on Deshaun Watson. Good for you. That's
I'm not saying I like
No.
Deshaun Watson. I'm just saying Trevor Lawrence should be viewed in the same lens as Deshaun Watson.
no
Production-wise.
See,
Production-wise, yes.
I get your point. I get your point.
My point is their numbers are identical.
We're not lowering Trevor Lawrence down to Deshaun Watson.
Thank you.
That is ridiculous in my opinion. Let's talk about another trade, okay? Good Lord. Superflex, Trevor Lawrence or 2025 late first and the 2026 late second. So not a mid. I don't know where Joel's going because it takes picks. Let's have a civil conversation amongst gentlemen, Dustin. Okay. What about the picks? All right, we're talking Trevor Lawrence or the picks here.
I guess a first and a second. I know the second in 2026. Yeah, how do you know it's going to be late though? I mean, you don't know that for certain.
If they're contending and then they're adding Trevor Lawrence as like a third quarterback, I don't know.
No, it's probably going to be early if they think they're starting Trevor Lawrence.
No, let's say it's a contending team that they
want depth.
That they want depth with how many quarterbacks are going down, and they go after Trevor Lawrence to be their QB3, hoping that he shows upside, and then they can end up trading one of their other quarterbacks.
Yeah, with the second, I guess I would take the picks. I don't know that I would pay more than a first for him. I mean, the single first was fine for me, but anything more than that, I don't know that I'd be willing to pay that.
But it's late. Mm-hmm.
What?
But it's
What was
late.
that?
It's a late first.
So we think. You don't know that 100%.
I don't know. In the box, when it's stacked, you just kind of have to assume, yeah, they're probably going to be a contending team. Whether they're the last pick or the second to last pick or the third to last pick, we can go on. But
every team with Rishi Rice thought they were a contender until they weren't.
There's some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. Let's move on. Let's move on.
I have a league where I'm totally in a tear down rebuild. There's a super stacked team that is not winning right now. They have CMC and AJ Brown on their squad, and they looked like they were going to be the runaway team in this league. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
But this season is an outlier, and I tweeted about this yesterday.
No, it's not.
I wasn't expecting this tweet to pop off. Let's take a time out for a second. I tweeted about this yesterday. Is that this season, like I said, am I burnt out or am I just not enjoying fantasy football the same as I used to a few years ago? And it blew up because that's how everyone's feeling, that with this drop off in points, it's not as enjoyable. You don't get that same enjoyment. And so like with the drop off in points right now, like people are feeling that right now. So I'm not alone with that.
Here's the thing. This environment makes it even more so that you cannot start a guy like Trevor Lawrence because he's going to kill you, because everybody is better than him. He's got 4 touchdowns in 4 games. Every quarterback is like as good or better than him. So you can't just say
young.
it. Okay, every Andy Dalton's better than him. I would start Andy Dalton before I'd start Trevor Lawrence right now.
But this season is an outlier, and that's the point I was trying to get at.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not the difference from last year.
Injuries, this many.
No,
I get it.
It's
this
not that
many
different.
injuries, this many dropping points. I think that there's a factor. It's not the sole factor. It's a small factor with this new kickoff rule, is that teams aren't wanting to go as far down, or not as like urgent to go as far down the field, knowing that they have that 60-yard field goal kicker in their back pocket. They have that in their bag. So like, I think that is contributing to it, but like this season is an outlier. So like, yeah, like to the point that Dustin was making, you had AJ Brown, you had CMC, like you were a contender. You know that you're a contender in a regular year. This is an outlier. Like this doesn't feel right. Like the fact that we're starting this many waiver wire picks, like waiver wire picks are supposed to be like an additional like 1 week drop-in thing, or like a bench pick, whatever. Not whoever has the best waiver wire ad is going to win you your league this year. And that's what this is. This is an outlier year. So I can't like be like super out and it's like, oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence is like underproducing, only has 4 touchdowns. Well, it's like everyone is having a terrible year right now, unless you're like Jaden Daniels, just for first name to come to mind. So like there's only a slim amount of quarterbacks or even players in general that are just like highly producing right now. So I can't be like completely out on Trevor Lawrence with that in mind.
Jordan Love has 6 touchdowns and 2 starts. Malik Willis was better than Trevor Lawrence for the 2 games he was starting.
He's got a quarterback. He's got weapons. He's got a defense.
It's 2 starts versus 4.
Isn't Josh Allen Jacksonville Josh Allen? Isn't he hurt? Isn't he out for the season? Like there's a factor on why this Jaguars team is as bad as it is. Like the defense isn't as good. So Trevor Lawrence has more on his shoulders. They're not doing as many turnovers. Like there's reasons. Like obviously Doug Peterson is going to be gone, but I can't point the finger all on Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Real quick. I feel pretty fair. Flex. Trevor Lawrence in a 2025 third, or Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr.
Joel, you start this one off.
Cousins and Penix, and I'm not hesitant. I'm running to my computer to accept that trade.
Why are you so on that? Like we haven't even seen what Michael Penix can do, and Kirk Cousins isn't blowing anyone away.
He's better than Trevor Lawrence.
I would say that I would view Kirk Cousins and Trevor Lawrence very similarly, and then the age factor.
Okay, so if Cousins and Lawrence are similar, then you'd much rather take Penix over a third?
I don't know if Penix is good. I feel like a lot of that was Ryan Grubb in that offense and simplifying things for him for Michael Penix. And I don't know, like the fact that the way that the Falcons organization handled that whole situation, I'm not in love with this idea that like this is the organization that's going to come in and make things so easy for for Michael Penix like they did at Washington. Like everything seems so complicated in Atlanta, whether that's hiring Arthur Smith last year and he just wants to decide to not use his best players, or whether it's this year and they have two quarterbacks yet I think that they're probably just as good as they were last year, honestly. And they had Desmond Ridder, and everyone thought that they were a quarterback away from being this amazing team. Like I'm not blown away by the Falcons. And so like Trevor Lawrence's age and a pick, I think I'd honestly lean Trevor Lawrence in the third over Cousins and Penix.
Okay, you said you don't know if Penix is good. I know that Trevor Lawrence is not good. He has as much chance to be good as Michael Penix does. Because I don't know about Penix. You're right. We don't. I think I like him more than most people, or I'm higher on him than say market, but higher than you are. Well, I'll say that. I think he's going to be a starter in the league. Trevor Lawrence has not been good to this point.
Will Levis is a starter in the league.
Not for long.
And that could be Michael Penix.
Okay.
And so,
I think he will be an average to above average starter in the league.
And everyone thought that's what Will Levis was for a few weeks. So like Michael Penix could be good and I could be wrong. I just don't see it. And so like me personally, I think I'd rather go off Trevor Lawrence. And like you said, if Trevor Lawrence's name value to you can attract a Ben Johnson, I don't think Ben Johnson is going to go there, but going off of your perspective earlier, is that if his name value is going to draw a great offensive coordinator to go there, like, I don't know. I just don't see anyone coming in there to fix Michael Penix going to Atlanta, so.
To be clear, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to attract a coach there. I think the Cons money is going to attract a coach to go there.
I think that,
and they can talk themselves into Trevor Lawrence being something they can work with.
That's a factor, but they also are fighting Jacksonville's market. Like, who wants to go to Jacksonville? And honestly, who wants to go up against? Obviously,
there's only 32 of these jobs, dude. There's only 32 of these jobs, and 25 of them are spoken for at any given time.
Who wants to go up against D'Amico Ryans twice a year? Who wants to go up against Shane Steichen twice a year?
Dude, these guys are hyper competitive. They want the challenge.
I mean, Will Levis doesn't look good, but I think that Brian Callahan's still going to be really good. So, what were you saying, Dustin?
Well, I think with the Jags too, you have to remember they play 2 games in London every year at least.
You got exposure.
3 games. I mean,
fan base.
Well, you have that, but I mean, do people want to have to worry about giving up 2 of their home games in the States to travel over to London and deal with that hassle? Question mark. I don't know. You got it. All right.
The Jaguars are going to hire Ted Lasso. You heard it here first. And I want to see Jake do that video next. So, Jake, if you're listening, Ted Lasso is the next Jaguars coach. You heard it here first. That's the new season. That's the new season on Amazon. They're going to work with the Cons. It's going to be the Cons money. They're going to be the new person in charge. It's going to be great. Oh, yeah, I can see it here first. Switch to sports. To real football.
All right. Do we have more trades here, Hoov, to talk about?
Yes, we do. So let's it's kind of the same concept. Let's switch to the teams though. Trevor Lawrence in 2025 third, or Justin Fields and Russell Wilson?
I'll take Fields and Wilson. Even though Wilson's really nothing, but I think I have faith in Justin Fields turning his career around. He got screwed in Chicago.
All right, Sassy Pants, what about you? I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I think Fields is going to have a more market than Lawrence will, and not. I mean, Russell Wilson's a zero in this deal, but I mean that's my only hesitation is that I would probably rather have the pick than Russell Wilson. But yeah, I think Fields has some flexibility, and Lawrence just doesn't right now. That's my entire hesitation with Lawrence. You cannot move him; he's immobile. Nobody wants him.
How are you in on Justin Fields right now with what he's done? And you're out.
I'm not in. I'm saying the market has more interest in Justin Fields than it ever will with Trevor Lawrence. I can move Justin Fields easier than I can Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I honestly think he was a Russ injury away from being another Trey Lance. So yeah,
I don't disagree.
He is not winning you leagues the same way that Trevor Lawrence isn't winning you leagues. And if Justin Fields is the answer with the Steelers this year, how many is he going to get another shot next offseason with another team? I don't think so. So like Trevor Lawrence
this is closer
again, has that job security, unlike Fields, unlike Wilson. Like if let's say Fields actually beats him out and throughout the rest of the year, but Fields isn't like being like this highly productive fantasy quarterback because he's got Arthur Smith as his offensive coordinator. Like, are you still going to be in on Justin Fields? Probably not. Like, and you know that there's like a limit with that. Like Justin Fields, when unleashed, yeah, he could be like a top 10 fantasy quarterback, but I just don't see a pathway to that ever being a thing again. I really don't. It's tough. It's a tough reality to live in, but that's where I'm at.
I don't see a path forward for Trevor Lawrence either, but I know I can't move him. If Justin Fields has a couple good games, like if he goes out and has 2 touchdowns against Dallas this week, like he did last week, he's going to have a market, so I can move him if I want to. You can't move Trevor Lawrence.
You can't say that because you have suckers like me that are saying, hey, let me get Trevor Lawrence. Let me get all the Trevor Lawrence because I still see something in it. And
okay,
he's not immovable. He's not Andre. Okay, so he can be moved.
He's immovable. He's immovable for value.
Depends on the value. Like if you're feeling that way and I'm feeling that way about where his value's at, it's probably going to be easy to come up with a trade. So people are already probably like, all right, I'm just going to bite the bullet. This is what I'm going to get, and I'll trade him. But finding someone that's like willing to give up that even compensated value, because like you said, either you're really out or you're like hesitant but in. I feel like people have already moved to that level with Trevor Lawrence. So I feel like he could be pretty movable, actually.
I think there's a bigger Venn diagram of Justin Fields fans and Steelers fans that I could move Justin Fields.
Steelers are one of the most popular franchises in the NFL. That is
unfair.
That is unfair.
There's a shit ton more Steelers fans than there are Jags fans. So if I can find one of them, I can move Justin Fields. You can't move Trevor Lawrence.
Well, do you have anything else to add, Dustin, before we move on to the next one, the next organization?
Oh, no. I can't wait to get into this next one.
All right. Superflex, we got Trevor Lawrence or JJ McCarthy and a 2025 third and a 2026 third, and they currently have Darnold. I feel like this is a smash. I'm a JJ McCarthy guy. I'm going to do it. I'm not doing it just because you have Darnold, even though Darnold's been balling. I got to give Darnold credit. But, I mean, you'd see someone like having to throw in 2/3 for Trevor Lawrence because he's actually like healthy right now and JJ McCarthy's on IR. I mean, there's people whispering about like, who knows if JJ McCarthy's even going to be the franchise guy with how good Sam Darnold's been. So if I am wrong, which I am many times, at least you have that security of having Darnold there. So I'd be all in on this. But who knows? Maybe you could get JJ McCarthy just for Trevor Lawrence at this point.
Yeah, I would take the JJ McCarthy side as well. He's on IR. You have Darnold. It's not hurting your squad at all this year. You're setting yourself up for next year. Whether Darnold sticks around with the Vikings or not, at least you'll have what would be the starting quarterback either way if Darnold sticks around. And you're getting a couple thirds on top of it. So, yeah, that's where I would go with this.
Kevin O'Connell is a dog. Let's just get that out in the open, okay? Kevin O'Connell is a dog. He did the impossible. He made Sam Darnold look really, really good. Something that that plenty of organizations have tried to do. I was going to say Sean McVay, but I got him confused with Baker for a second. So plenty of organizations have tried. Even Kyle Shanahan tried. And that was my whole thing with Sam Darnold is I'm like, he was I liked Brock Purdy, but if Sam Darnold, who was a top 3 pick, like if he had that talent still there, and Kyle Shanahan's system, which is completely quarterback friendly, you'd think that he'd be able to bring that top 3 talent back on Sam Darnold. And even with Brock Purdy coming off that injury, like you never heard Sam Darnold just being like amazing out of 49ers camp, like to even compete with Brock Purdy for the starting job. So I was out on it, but Kevin O'Connell, hats off to you, man. Good for you. All right, let's move on to the next one then. Superflex, Trevor Lawrence or Brian Robinson in the 2025 second? Losing a quarterback. You get your pick that you want, Joel. So where are you at? I got it.
I'll take
Superflex. Yeah, in Superflex, it has to be the quarterback. Yep. Just any starting quarterback is better than worth Brian Robinson in a second.
Ladies and gentlemen,
flip it.
We got him. Let's go. I mean, he's got a point. Got to go with Trevor Lawrence. Hey, the only case that I will make about this, I know where I'm going to lean towards it, but Brian Robinson right now looks like a smash pick the rest of the season. I mean, I was a little worried, like we talked about him on the show previously, like he's like a David Montgomery, that he's just going to be a nuisance because he's going to be extremely fantasy relevant. Like not extremely fantasy relevant, but he's going to chip away at whatever running back that they go after next draft season to replace Austin Eckler. Don't discredit Brian Robinson then next season. I know I'm not going to. I'm still going to probably draft a lot of Brian Robinson next season. And don't be fooled by that. So Brian Robinson could be a top 10 running back the rest of the season, and I wouldn't be surprised. So that's the only argument I'd make about that, but we probably still have to go Trevor Lawrence in a super flex league. Let's do a 1 QB, full PPR. Ooh, let's get really down and dirty with it. Full PPR, Trevor Lawrence or his wide receiver, Christian Kirk.
You can't start Trevor Lawrence in a single QB. You're losing to every team in your league at that position. So yeah, this is easily Kirk.
Would you?
Yeah, I mean,
really close and keep.
I guess Christian Kirk. But if you don't trust Trevor Lawrence to throw anybody the ball and produce, then it's kind of a wash. Because if he can't get the ball to Kirk, then what's Kirk gonna do? Although I love Christian Kirk, this is not an anti-Christian Kirk take here.
Let's say hypothetically, it's like a 16-team league.
Yeah, but like Christian Kirk can be productive in a 1 QB league, and Trevor Lawrence is still not starter worthy.
Yeah, no, I agree. In 1 QB, it's got to be Kirk.
But depending on the league size, like the bigger the league size, the more it's Trevor Lawrence. That's probably the only answer I would have.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the bigger league size, you get closer to Superflex, then yeah.
No,
like a 16-team 1 QB is essentially a Superflex league.
I don't know, because like teams like having, I feel like Superflex is more anywhere between 8 to 12, but that's my personal.
No, I was a 16.
Anything over that is like
equivalent to a Superflex.
So yeah, and like if they're ranking him at QB 15, and sure, we'd move him down probably like to QB 20 or whatnot. Like that means he's still a high end backup. So would you rather have like a high end backup quarterback in a 1 QB 16 team league, or Christian Kirk, who in my opinion I'm kind of out on, just because like we talked about, the offense isn't great right now. So Brian Thomas Jr. is the only receiver I'm really interested in there right now. So I think I still would take Trevor Lawrence in a bigger league size.
Even then, I probably wouldn't. I mean, it's 1 QB league. I'd take my chances. Bye week, pick someone up if I have to. But otherwise, I wouldn't be starting Trevor Lawrence in a 1 QB league unless it was a bye week or my quarterback got injured. So I typically don't roster 2 quarterbacks in a 1 QB league unless I totally punt the position. But if I was going to punt it and do like a Trevor Lawrence and, or a Baker maybe, and play the streaming game, maybe at that point I would roster 2, but even in a 16-teamer, I don't know that I would necessarily roster 2, only because the production just falls off so much.
You're making a good case, but I want it for this next one. I want to know if we're going to go off of recency bias. It's not necessarily recency bias for me. I've been on this for all off season, but recency bias or what could be for Trevor Lawrence. 1 QB, full PPR. Trevor Lawrence or Wan'Dale Robinson? Wan'Dale Robinson currently wide receiver 20.
How many starters?
Answer the question. We don't have to talk about starters. Answer the question.
It depends. If it's a start 8, start 9, there's no way Wan'Dale Robinson is starting. So
I've started at Wan'Dale Robinson in so many leagues, and I have been very good in those leagues, actually.
If it's a start 10, start 11, then yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson's a starter, so I want him. If he's a start 8, start 9, I'm never starting Wan'Dale Robinson.
I've started Wan'Dale Robinson every week in a guillotine league, and I've finished top 4 every single one of those weeks. Thank you very much. So let's get back on the Wan'Dale Robinson train.
20 yards downfield.
He's getting points. Like there's the market sucks right now. Like what if Wan'Dale Robinson could produce in a sucky fantasy economy? Then like he's ready. He's ready. You know,
Wan'Dale Robinson in this economy.
Okay. Yes, buy into Wan'Dale Robinson, cheap prices, baby. So let's say start 9. Wan'Dale Robinson. In a 1 QB though.
So even in a 1 QB league, give me Wan'Dale. I'll stick to my previous answer.
Look, there's not many trades here that I'm gonna not be on Trevor Lawrence, but another share of Wan'Dale Robinson. Like this offseason, I feel like I died and gone to heaven because Wan'Dale Robinson, heavily talked about. JSN, heavily talked about. Like this has been a great year. My 2 boys are like 2 of the hottest names in fantasy right now. It's awesome. Fucking love it, man. I'm hyped. But
why does JSN only get targets every other game? What's up with that?
I don't know. Maybe weather.
Make it make sense.
Hey, I can't right now, but we'll get back to you when I have a good answer. Okay. All right. 1 QB, Trevor Lawrence or Sam Darnold in the 2025 second.
It's Darnold.
It's got to take Darnold right now.
Really?
With the way he's playing.
Oh man! Like okay, this is recency bias to a T. Long term, Are we serious? Like even a 1 QB, like okay, yes, rest of season Sam Darnold over Trevor Lawrence, and that's me being the bigger man about this and saying yes, I'm realizing this talent that Sam Darnold has with Kevin O'Connell. But you're looking after the season, Trevor Lawrence is still going to be a starting quarterback for the next 2 seasons. You're hoping that JJ McCarthy's not where?
It won't be in Minnesota, but he'll be starting somewhere.
Could be Minnesota. If he continues to play the way he has been, why would they want to give him up?
No, they're not resigning him. I doubt they resign him, but he's going to be a starter somewhere. Whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Jets, I don't think he's going back to the Jets, but the Raiders. Somebody's going to draft a quarterback next year that's not ready to play, and Sam Darnold's going to be a bridge quarterback. There's no way he's not a starter next year.
All right, let's say it's the Titans. You still in on Sam Darnold? Brian Callahan?
Yeah. I would much rather have I don't see either of these guys as long-term assets. What if Belichick goes to Jacksonville and just wants to play defense and never throw and run the ball?
Don't put that evil out there. That is just.
That's what I'm saying. It's possible. If they want to make a splash hire and they got all the money in the world to do it, you think that's good for Trevor Lawrence's long-term outlook? It's not.
Are you forgetting about Tom Brady's 50 touchdown season?
I'm looking at both these guys as this year assets, and that's it. And so it's their value this year. That's all in this deal. That's all I care about is what they can do for me this year. And that's Sam Darnold. It's not close.
If I knew that there was a really good chance of Sam Darnold like beating out JJ, if it wasn't JJ McCarthy, like, and it was like Michael Penix, like in Minnesota, I would be like all in on Sam Darnold, like beating out Nick Penix and being the starting quarterback for the future with Kevin O'Connell. I would be, and I'd probably do that side. But you can't look at Sam Darnold like long term and think, okay,
I'm not. I'm saying in this deal, all I care about is what can they do from in this deal. I would rather have the second over Trevor Lawrence be in a 1 QB. I take the second. I'm never starting Trevor Lawrence in a single QB unless I'm tanking. No chance. If Trevor Lawrence is your starter in a 1 QB, you are losing that position to every team in your league every single week. You cannot start him in a 1 QB.
Oh man,
I'd rather have the second.
I mean, I guess if it's
Drake May was a second in a 1 QB.
If it's a smaller league, then sure. But like I said, if it's a bigger league, like there's no way that you're giving up Sam.
In a 12-team league, if you're starting Trevor Lawrence, you're losing to other teams' backups.
In a 12-team league, I'm still
by starting Trevor Lawrence.
In a 12-team
I'd rather have the
league,
second.
for sure. I'm still doing 12 in a 12-team league. Absolutely. That's a high-end top 6 backup, in my opinion. So I still would do that. I'm not even gonna have a first for him at that point. Like, why not? It's Sam Darnold. I'm selling the high on Sam Darnold's value and throwing a 2025 second on it.
In a 12-team league, there's probably a team that has like Kyler and Jaden Daniels, or Kyler and Caleb Williams. You're losing to these teams' backups with Trevor Lawrence.
There's a lot
in a
of
1 QB
losing to backups right now. Let's be honest. This is a bad league to compare it to. But
no, I'm just saying that's the dynamics of a 1 quarterback league. You cannot start Trevor Lawrence. You're getting killed at that position. And the lower you go, if you got to start 8, start 9, you don't have that many spots to make up that difference. You're getting killed. You're probably losing every week.
On a bye week, he's a backup. I'm saying, like, if you're going to invest in a backup quarterback in a 1 QB, like, and you have to give up Sam Darnold, who you probably picked up off of waivers, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
25 second. You're going to just a second for a high-end backup quarterback who let's say he has a big week on your bye week. I think that there's chances of him having good weeks, but I'm not invested like throughout a whole season of Trevor Lawrence by any means. So that's why he's my backup quarterback.
Who could have a big week on my bye week? Daniel Jones.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold. I mean, if you're having a quarterback as your backup just for the bye week fill-in.
If I had a 20-25 second, I could go buy Geno Smith and be much, 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 much better off than I am with Trevor Lawrence.
But there's also that age factor. Like Trevor Lawrence,
I don't care. This is only for 1 year. This is all I'm looking at with these guys. Trevor Lawrence is not a long-term asset. He's not. Right.
Let's look at an actual short-term asset and compare him to Trevor Lawrence. 1 QB, Trevor Lawrence or Matthew Stafford in 2025 second. Let's even just for you. Let's for Joel. Let's just take off the second on it. Just because I want to make him sweat. Are you serious? You really think that he's a short-term asset? You think he's got 2 years? Like Stafford's only got like 2 years or so. Trevor Lawrence or Matthew Stafford in a 1 QB league?
Because Kupp and Puka are both hurt, I would take Trevor Lawrence because he's got an actual offense around him. Yes. If it's Stafford in a second, I want the pick. And Stafford's a throw-in. Yeah, I'm taking that.
You can't make this up, folks. You can't make this up. I just said it. All you got to do is just throw away that pick, and he just comes running right back.
Running back?
He's running back. Dustin, you got anything to add?
I would just take Lawrence in this 1v1 situation here we've got going.
Good. Okay. So we had a pretty good episode. I thought that first this episode was going a little bit off the rails. We didn't have much to talk about. We just knocked out a whole hour just going through trades basically because there's that much argument to have when all three of us are on camera together. So we had a great episode actually, but we're not done yet because we have to tell you all about our great partners over at Dynasty Nerds. Dustin?
Yes, thank you. Do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? then you need to hear about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. And if what you're looking for is film on upcoming rookies, then look no further than their all 22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools that they offer. Head to dynastynerds.com and see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans, and at checkout, enter the code Club Fantasy, one word, to save 15% off your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use the promo code Club Fantasy to get 15% off. And man, is that a hell of a deal. I'm just saying.
And if you're stuck with Trevor Lawrence as your starter, you can go look at Cam Ward. You can look at Jalen Milroe. You can look at someone who might actually help you next year.
Yeah. I mean, that is a pretty good deal. But, I mean, it's a great deal. Is it a better deal than this one? It's hard to argue. They're both great deals, but it's draft
season. Their film room is awesome. It's great stuff.
It's not draft season anymore. The drafts have wrapped up, but we still have time before you crown your fantasy champion to head over to TrophySmack.com/WAF and start shopping. Get those fantasy championships, get those belts, get those rings, get that bling, get it all, and support WAF over at TrophySmack.com/WAF. Look at that beautiful trophy.
That's right.
That's a beautiful trophy.
Beautiful.
So,
yes.
What a great episode.
That was fun. It was good to get back in the saddle this week. This was a good episode to get back into it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a bumpy ride, but we got back on course. That's what's up. So,
that's right.
Yes. So next week we got Malik Neighbors that we're talking about. So make sure you guys come back next Tuesday where we
good player.
Yes, where we'll have plenty to talk about Malik Neighbors next week and hype up Malik Neighbors. But we're not the only show here on Club Fantasy. So, Dustin, you want to tell the fabulous viewers out there all about what shows we have upcoming?
Yeah, we've got such a great variety of shows here under the Club Fantasy banner. First, make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL at Club Fantasy FFL and the Women of Fantasy Football at women_FF on Twitter. Make sure you're following us hosts as well. You can follow my boy Joel at the Joel Wirth, my boy Hoov at HoovTube, and me if you are so inclined at FF Dusty Dog. But yeah, to hit up these other shows, we've got stuff every single day of the week. Mondays, we've got the Monday Hangxiety. Tuesday, we got Wiretapped and TradeBlocked with us. On Wednesdays, we got Who's Your Caddy, the Golf DFS show. And on Wednesday night, we have the flagship show of No Punt Intended. On Thursdays, it's the Dynasty After Party. On Friday, it's a masterclass of DFS. And on Saturday, it's Start, Sit, Different Day to get all those start, sit decisions answered for you. So yes, be sure you're checking out every single one of those shows. Great content every single day of the week. Best in the business. I'm just going to say it.
And if you've got start sit questions on Sunday morning, check out the Club Fantasy Twitter account because we will be answering your start sit questions all morning on Sunday.
Yes, I will be there. I will also be on Thursday's episode with Joel, and we'll be breaking it down. So he's got double
special guest host.
That's right. Hey. So no Josh this week, but I'll be there. I'll be there. Ooh, man. Give me the band. Let's go. But what a great episode. Thank you all for coming out and showing support tonight. We appreciate it so much. Make sure you guys head over to OptimusFantasy.com this weekend, Saturday, and check out my bets over at Optimus for this weekend. Hopefully we can start making some Monday this weekend. So head on over there Saturday.
$1 bills, y'all.
And here's to another great week of fantasy for everyone. And we'll see you all next week.